In this video, I'll be reviewing the new 2022 Honda HR-V. The subcompact SUV is much larger than it looks and still provides great utility all around. There are no changes for 2022. Let's get started. First, I want to give big thanks to Honda of Laos, which made this video possible. So if you're in the market for a brand new or used Honda, make sure you check them out. Their URL is in the description below. Alright, I'm on the road. Let's see how good this brand new HR-V is and how it drives. So to start out, I want to mention that I reviewed two HR-Vs in the past, a 2020 HR-V and a 2019 HR-V, and both happen to be the touring trim. So I kind of got used to all the niceties within a touring trim, but that no longer exists. It just disappeared from the lineup, and I have no idea why. The sport trim, in my opinion, has to be the best looking HR-V out there now that the touring is gone. Just take a look, especially with this bright blue matched with the black contrast. It looks really, really good. So the black I mentioned is all over. The mirrors have a glossy black finish. I really like that. The window surrounds are black. Also look at the spoiler underneath the front bumper. That is glossy black. That flows into the cladding around the wheel fenders, and that flows to the side sills or the side skirts on the side. I really like how even on a lower trim level, you get everything painted just like the touring. The touring was painted to body color. This one is painted to black, but in my opinion, I think this black color actually looks better. And same thing with the rear. If you look at the lower bumper, instead of all matte black, it's all glossy black. On the Sport, you also get exhaust tip, and that looks nice too. Oh, and let's not forget those 18-inch black wheels, which have been redesigned for 2021. I think they look really good and really gives this HR-V a nice stance. And also, look at the roof rails. Actually integrated aluminum roof rails. Now, if they were black, it would complete the blackout look. But I do like how they're aluminum and they actually feel really good, really beefy. They're not just cheap roof rails that's stuck on. So I do like that as well. Now on the sport trim up front, you do get projector beam headlights along with fog lights. Neither are LED, but the daytime running lights are LED, and you also get LED tail lights. So for me, I definitely think the sport trim is the one to get, mostly because of the outside. It's definitely the best looking HR-V out there, and it does have a good sporty vibe. Now, besides the looks, the HR-V is known for utility and its spaciousness. Yes, spaciousness, that doesn't seem like that should be a quality of the HR-V, but trust me, you'll be surprised because this is almost like a clown car. You fit so much in here that shouldn't be possible, but you do, with cargo and passengers. So starting with the cargo room, just take a look behind the second row seats. There's actually a lot of cargo room, way more than you would figure by looking at the exterior of the HR-V. Unfortunately, there's no hidden storage underneath. There is a spare tire, but that's about it. But if you wanted more cargo room, simply fold down the second row. They fold virtually flat, and as you can see, there is a ton of cargo room. So if you wanted to haul big boxes, luggage, your bikes, whatever, you could certainly do so with this HR-V. Now moving to the second row, I'm 5'10", and look at this. Behind my driving position, I have at least 6 inches of legroom and about the same with headroom, probably like 45 inches of headroom. This is in a subcompact SUV. Subcompact SUV. The amount of room in the second row is equivalent to most mid-sized SUVs, and I'm not even joking about that. There's an enormous amount of room in the second row. Now, besides folding seats down to generate more cargo room for the rear, you could also fold the seats up. Yes, the bottom cushion also folds up. Honda calls these magic seats. And when you do that, of course, there's more space for your things. If you had a TV or a bike or something else that you didn't want to put in the rear, you can put in the second row. And that is magical because no one else offers that. And the same thing up here. I feel very spacious. Look at how much headroom I have. Plenty of headroom, plenty of shoulder room. The hip room is a little bit smaller, but I don't feel very cramped. I feel like I'm in a compact SUV, not a subcompact SUV. So very nice up here as well. Now, what else do you get on the sport trim? Well, you actually get a good amount. You get sport pedals underneath. They actually look pretty good. You get paddle shifters, and I'll test them to see if they're actually necessary, but you do get them. Also, you do get this 7-inch infotainment screen that comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So even though there's no navigation, it's okay. You could just use your phone. Now, the interface and the brightness, responsiveness, not the greatest, even for Honda standards. It's a little bit dark, a little bit slow, but you get the essentials. And most importantly, you can use your phones to navigate and do whatever you want. And that's really nice. A lot of the competition do not offer that on their lower or base trims. On the Sport, you also get this 141 horsepower engine, but that's not exclusive to the Sport. That's for all trim levels on the HR-V. And this engine is okay. It made a lot of noise upon full acceleration. So it's not a quick SUV, but it's adequate for most people that's driving this around town and just driving on the highways, right? It's okay. But if you're expecting something more, or you're expecting an optional turbo engine, it's not available on this HR-V. Now, this engine is mated to a CVT transmission, but you would never know it. This CVT is tuned so well that you really can't tell it's a CVT. It simulates shifts, and it doesn't have that drone when you're accelerating, right? It's always very smooth around town. So Honda, you know, they mastered CVTs, and this one is a really, really good one. Now, what else do you get inside this HR-V? Well, unfortunately on the Sport, you only get climate controls, but not the auto functionality. So you do have to adjust your modes and your fan speed and how hot or cold it is. So you do have to adjust that manually. Also, you don't get a push button start. You do have a regular key, and you don't see that very often anymore, where you have to actually crank it, right? Unfortunately, this HR-V Sport does not get Honda sensing, which I thought became standard, but it's not. You have to opt for the EX trim, which is one trim level above the Sport, to get Honda sensing. So all the goodness, all the safety features that you get with Honda sensing, it's not available on here. Now, as for cabin noise, actually surprisingly good in here. It's actually really well insulated. I don't hear much from the outside at all. No road noise, no wind noise, hardly anything from the cars passing by, just slightly from the engine with acceleration, but that's it. It's actually very quiet in here. Also, the visibility is fantastic. Fantastic. The front windshield is actually really, really big. Really big. The hood slopes down so dramatically. At my driving position, I can't see any part of the hood. It's like there's no hood up there. So I can see well past it. So front visibility, terrific. Side visibility, also good. Mirrors are nice and big. And rear visibility too. You know, surprisingly, I thought the blind spot would be bad, but no, the way the back is shaped, the rear window is really big. So blind spot's actually really good. And that's a good thing because you don't get blind spot monitoring with this HR-V Sport. But blind spot is really good, and surprisingly, again, the rear window, the tailgate window is enormous. It's really, really big. So visibility overall, really nice, really nice. As for driving position, also pretty good, pretty good. It's not the highest riding SUV. You get a little bit of a commanding view, right? So you're sitting a little bit higher than a sedan or a hatchback. Now, because of the visibility and the spaciousness in here, actually, I think the driving position is quite nice. The seats in here are also pretty nice, although they're not leather, but the cushion and design is nice. The cloth is holding me in. The bolstering is actually holding my back well without being too aggressive. Bottom cushion is also good. And overall, I feel like it's really hugging me in a good way. And unfortunately, the downside to these really nice seats and cloth seats is my back is getting very hot. Very, very hot. I wish ventilated seats were available, but they're not. What's also nice about this HR-V is this floating console and also the cup holder and armrest design. you could tell Honda spent a lot of time on it. Even though this has a standard shifter, which normally with a standard shifter you can't get a floating design, but Honda figured it out. So underneath there is actually some space. You have two USB ports, a 12V outlet, and there is some space to put your phone or small things under there, right? Your maps, if you use a physical map. There is some space under there, so I like it. It's a good use of space. The cup holders are very nice design. You get two cup holders, right? But if you needed more space, you can push them down. I like that design, and you have a regular armrest with more storage underneath. Also, what's nice is behind the armrest, you do have one 12V outlet and a cup holder for the rear passengers. Normally, on a subcompact SUV or one that's a base trim or lower trim, you get no ports in the back, right? At least Honda decided to give a 12V outlet so you could plug in a USB adapter or something, right? And you get one cup holder, but unfortunately that's it. There's no other cup holders in the second row, and unfortunately there's no vents back there either. On the Sport, you do get a leather wrap steering wheel, which is nice. So I do like the leather, although it's a little bit slippery. But the steering is actually pretty good. A neutral weight, not too heavy, not too light, and it's actually decently precise. A little bit of play in the steering wheel, but that's it. But overall, I think the steering's good, and paired with the suspension, it's nice. The suspension is doing a good job soaking up all the bumps. It's quite comfortable around town. I don't really feel a lot of rattles or shakes in here, so the suspension is nice. Now, if you're taking hard corners, I do feel like there's a little bit more body roll in here, right, than some of the others I've tested. But overall, the suspension and steering provides a pretty comfortable ride, a pretty controlled ride, and I think you'll like it. Now, as for the cabin design, I would say, yeah, it's a little bit dated now. It could use a refresh, but overall, it isn't too bad. The 3 vents on the passenger side, that's very unique, right? But I do like how that flows into the infotainment screen. You kind of have a driver-centric setup over here. That's not too bad. Actually, I think that's okay. I think it's more of the use of hard plastic and just hard materials everywhere. If that was updated, I think that would make it better. Also, the gauge cluster setup, it's not bad. You have one center speedometer and also tachometer on one side, and then you have like a digital one on the right side. And the digital one tells you like your trip computer, your fuel economy, your miles per gallon, stuff like that. So even though the dash and cabin isn't the most modern and stylish, but it still works, and it's still very functional and practical. And along with everything else, this HR-V is still a fantastic SUV. As for pricing, the base LX starts under $22,000. Then you have the Sport, which is around $24,000. Next, you have the EX at $25,000, and finally the range-topping EXL at $26,700. Hit the like and subscribe to the channel, and check out these other videos.